Person is all right except when he comes up with opposition. You oppose him in any way, he'll raise you to the ground. This is rajas. A sattvic person is one who acts for the welfare of humanity. This is a wonderful concept, a concept that we need to integrate into our systems, live it, and become a beacon light for the world. Loka sangraha, which means the desire to benefit humanity, the desire to benefit the whole world. Loka means just world, not just human beings. Because at some stage you need to understand that the world, the earth, the whole universe has been created not just for the welfare of human beings. All other species have equal right to this earth as much as we have. And when you understand that, when you awaken to this, it's only then that you're living the life of a human being. Here we are today, it's all about I, me, myself. I want to become a billionaire. Look at the state of this country. The number of billionaires are increasing. The number of, high-end products are selling, moving off the shelf like nobody's business. And yet, the poorest among us are getting poorer by the day. So, you must conceive of a project, embark on a project, live for the benefit of humanity, benefit of all concerned. And then, miraculously, you end up benefiting the most. Tamas. To eradicate tamas, it requires a lot of effort and time. That's why we took the example of plaque, and it requires expertise. It needs the courage of your conviction. It needs strength. That is why in the Indian system we worship Durga, because you have to invoke the destructive powers in you to take care of the tamas and rajas. It's a formidable enemy. With rajas, you need effort. The sattvic guna goes effortlessly. And the example the Gita gives is, it's like smoke around fire. A passing breeze is enough to take it away. Now what is interesting is, whatever tamasic quality you have, and this is a great help to all of us, surfaces in the mind only after sunset. That's why all indulgent activities start after sunset. You call it sundowner, right? You know what is referred to as sundowner? No? Don't tell me you're all so sattvic that you don't know what it is. Nobody even thinks of a drink first thing in the morning. But the moment the sun sets, automatically you gravitate towards, what do you call it? A permit room, a lounge bar, I don't know what you call it, but anyway, you go there. Rajas, during the daytime, between sunrise and sunset, activity starts. It is amazing. If you wake up before sunrise, very few people do that, you find there is a certain quiet. Even in the busiest areas of the city, there's serenity. And the moment the sun rises, hectic activity starts. That's rajas. And sattva surfaces in your mind between 4 and 6 a.m. You got that? Between 4 and 6 a.m. That is why it's called Brahma Muhurta. A tamasic person is so selfish, he's just obsessed with himself. A rajasic person accommodates the welfare of a small circle of people, like his immediate family, maybe his employees, his particular team. But that too because they cater to him. So he's attached and possessive. A sattvic individual is detached, meaning only a sattvic individual has true love. A tamasic person is inactive. A rajasic person is active. A sattvic person, transactive. What do we mean by transactive? His level of activity is so subtle, so refined, so powerful that the benefit that accrues from his activity goes into generations to come, like one Buddha, one Newton, one Einstein, one research scholar. They are well ahead of their time. This is what a sattvic individual is. It's very difficult to recognize their worth while they're living. Most of them are recognized only after they're dead, because for generations after that, they experience the benefit that accrues from their hard work. So this is it. A tamasic person has partial knowledge. A rajasic person has only worldly knowledge. You talk to him about the stock market, you talk to him about politics, you talk to him about fashion shows, you talk to him about movies, and he knows everything at the tip of his fingers. You talk to him about subtle things like music, art, what you call as soft skills. Philosophy, he falls asleep. A sattvic individual, so he has a gross intellect, and the sattvic individual has a subtle intellect. He has that subtlety. He picks up things that the average person misses. Next is a tamasic person sees things topsy-turvy. He sees right as wrong and vice versa. He doesn't understand what is freedom and what is bondage. He doesn't see the difference between what he ought to do, what are his obligations, and what he should refrain from. It's very important that you know the boundaries between acts of commission and omission. What you ought to do, what you ought not to do also you should know. If you make a mistake there, you're finished. And most of us make a mistake. We have no clue. A rajasic individual has confused thinking. That's why he's indecisive. One day he says, maybe I should marry. Second day he says, no, I should not marry. Third day he says, something or the other. He's constantly in a state of confusion. A sattvic individual has clear, precise thinking. And it is this clarity of thinking in every field of activity that is looked for. Whether you're an MBA or an engineer or whatever it is that you are pursuing, it is not the knowledge that you have that makes a difference, it is clarity of thinking that makes a difference. A tamasic person has an intellect that is dull and fanatic. Fanaticism is a product of a tamasic intellect, where you see only a part of it and hang on to it and say, this is the ultimate. And religious fanaticism, of course, is tamasic. A rajasic person has an intellect which is throbbing with ideas, schemes. You're constantly manipulating, constantly trying to maneuver things. Like now, everyone is trying to get ahead of the budget. And say, let's see what the finance minister is going to come up with, and let's see how I can make a profit out of it. Intellect is throbbing with ideas, but that tunnel vision comes because it's only towards personal profit and pleasure. Whereas a sattvic individual his intellect is contemplating. See, that is why usually a sattvic person does not express what he is thinking about. So you look at him and you find him quiet and you think he's dumb. He's not. His head is just brimming with ideas, creativity. And it comes out at the right time and the right place. That's how Archimedes, it's when you're constantly thinking about a certain thing, this concentration of thought suddenly precipitates as creative ideas and thoughts. So when Archimedes jumped into a tub, he discovered the famous Archimedes principle. So you think jumping into a tub will give you creativity. It's not that. It's the fact that he was constantly thinking, contemplating. What is the consistency that these three have? All three are consistent. A tamasic person resists change. He is headstrong, stubborn, doesn't budge. That's why you call him pig-headed. A rajasic person is consistent in the pursuit of desires, whereas a sattvic person is consistent in the pursuit of Atman and spiritual things. So, these are a few things. Now, what you need to understand is we have a little bit of all three. And you need to identify, as we're talking about these qualities, don't sit there and say, my mother-in-law belongs to this category. This knowledge is not meant for using on your mother-in-law. It's meant for use on yourself. So as we're talking about it, suddenly it should strike you, in this particular area I belong to tamas category. Other areas you might belong to sattvic category. So a tamasic person, his happiness comes from ignorance. All of us are ignorant of something, but a tamasic person is quite content with ignorance. That's the difference. Ignorance is bliss, and there is no restlessness at the fact that you don't know. You're quite content. You don't even want to face reality. A rajasic person gains happiness from sense contact. A rajasic person wants instant pleasure, immediate gratification. And most of us belong to this category. Whereas a sattvic person understands the pitfalls of instant pleasure. And he opts for the long term. He's got this vision, he's got the long line vision. Even in music, I don't know how many of you have noticed, when a child learns music, she could be very, very talented, but how does she sing? She sings one note to another. And that's why it sounds staccato. You understand what I mean? Unfortunately, I can't sing, otherwise I would have demonstrated. But a seasoned singer, an expert singer, is one who sings the same notes, but in a completely different manner, because he has the picture, the vision of the entire piece, the whole raga is there before him. And how does he sing it? So this is the difference between a rajasic. Rajasic is staccato, it just goes from one enjoyment to the other. A sattvic individual has the long-term vision. A tamasic person is lethargic. A rajasic person is stressful, stressed out. A sattvic person reaches what you call as effortless excellence. You find that in sport. Let's say cricket. A tamasic person doesn't even make the effort. A rajasic person makes the effort but then fumbles and messes up things. A sattvic individual, an expert like Sachin Tendulkar in free flow, effortlessly he plays. That's the way we're talking about. A tamasic person has zero motivation. You ask him, don't you want to work hard and earn a lot of money? He says, I'm not interested. And that is why this is called a false positive. Such a person mimics sattva, but actually he's not a sattvic person. He says he's not interested in money, position, status, all the things that the world has to offer, not out of knowledge, but out of ignorance. He doesn't know what it is to be powerful, therefore he says, I'm not interested in power. Whereas a rajasic person is ambitious, he knows the value of what the world has to offer and gets after it. A sattvic individual is one who is not interested in selfish pursuits because he has risen above it and dedicates himself to a higher cause. A tamasic person, how do you deal with tamas? You need to deal with your own tamasic qualities by the stick. You give yourself a schedule. Let's say you say, I need to wake up at this time, I need to exercise, I need to study, I need to do this, that, and the other. And if you don't do it, punish yourself. That's the only way to deal with tamas. Rajas needs a carrot, reward, incentives. for you to act. A sattvic person needs freedom. You just leave the person alone and he's self-motivated. So he doesn't need anything to drive him to activity. A tamasic person has maximum ego. You see a guy who's not doing anything with himself, he speaks as if he's the president of the whole world. A rajasic person has ego, but at least he has some achievements to fall back on. A sattvic individual is completely free of ego because he understands that his contribution is only a spoke in the wheel of life. It is the totality that brings about the result and not me alone. Now with this little bit of an introduction to sattva, rajas and tamas, we begin with the first verse.